You know that feeling, right? You meet someone for the first time and you just know. You get this instant vibe, this gut feeling, and you can't explain where it came from. Well, turns out you're not making it up. We're all walking around with basically two minds. There's the one we're aware of, the slow, careful one. But then there's this other one, this hidden, super fast mind that makes decisions in like the blink of an eye. So the big question is, how does this thing work, and what is it actually seeing?
In his amazing book, Blink, Malcolm Gladwell gives this a name, the adaptive unconscious. You can think of it like this giant, hidden supercomputer that's always running in the background, processing tons of information at an insane speed way below our conscious radar. It's the part of our brain that really came from our need to survive, making those split-second calls when thinking it over could get you killed.
So, let me just ask you this straight up. How much can you really know about a person in the time it takes to, snap your fingers? Almost nothing? A little bit? The answer is, well, it's actually a shocking amount.
This incredible ability is called thin slicing, and it's basically our brain's superpower for finding patterns and making unbelievably accurate calls based on just a tiny, tiny sliver of experience. It's this amazing skill we've developed over millions of years that lets us read really complex situations in a flash.
Okay, so check this out. 2 seconds. In a fascinating study, students watched silent 2-second video clips of professors they had never, ever met. And their ratings of how good those professors were, they were almost identical to the ratings from students who had spent an entire semester with them. All it took was 2 seconds. Wild, right?
In this power, it's not just for first impressions. There's a psychologist, John Gottman, who can watch a married couple talk for just a few minutes, and he can predict with 90% accuracy if they're still going to be together in 15 years. He's not psychic. He's just reading all those tiny unconscious signals that tell the real story of their relationship.
So here's the main takeaway. Our unconscious mind is this amazing pattern-finding machine. Whether it's a professor's body language or the little glances between a couple, it can size things up with just mind-blowing accuracy. It really is a superpower. But like every superpower, it definitely has a dark side.
Because that superpower, it can fail. And sometimes that lightning-fast first impression, that gut feeling, can be spectacularly wrong. Our brain's little shortcut can sometimes lead us straight off a cliff. For example, meet Warren G. Harding. He was elected president of the United States back in 1920, and a huge reason he won is that he just looked like a president. He was tall, good-looking, had that deep, commanding voice. People's snap judgments told him, this guy's a leader. But in reality, his administration was a disaster, full of scandals, and he's consistently ranked as one of America's worst presidents. This is what we call the Warren Harding era.
Now, there's a psychological term for this. It's called the halo effect, and it was first identified way back in 1920 by a psychologist named Edward Thorndike. It's basically our brain's tendency to let one good trait, like someone being attractive, create this sort of halo that makes us think everything else about them must be great too, whether it's true or not.
And this isn't just some old historical thing. It is happening all around us, all the time. Teachers might subconsciously think a well-behaved kid is also the smartest. Studies have shown that servers who are rated as more attractive earn over $1,000 more in tips every year. And get this, in the US, only about 14.5% of men are 6 feet or taller, but a whopping 58% of Fortune 500 CEOs are. Our brains are just automatically connecting height with leadership. It's wild.
So you might be wondering, what kind of data is our unconscious mind crunching so fast? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is unspoken. It's that constant stream of nonverbal cues we're all giving off without even thinking about it.
Our brains are absolute pros at reading something called microexpressions. These are these tiny, involuntary facial expressions that last for as little as 1/25th of a second. They're pretty much impossible to fake, and they flash our real, true emotions for anyone to see. That is, if you're fast enough to catch them. And our unconscious mind, it's more than fast enough.
All right, so this all leads us to a really fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling modern question. If our own human judgment is so powerful, but also so easily fooled by things like the halo effect, can we maybe do better? I mean, could we use technology like AI to make these snap judgments without all the baggage of our human biases? Could an algorithm look at a face and see the objective truth? It's a really tempting idea, for sure. But here's the catch. This isn't some sci-fi future we're talking about. It is happening right now. And in doing so, we're accidentally bringing a very old and very dangerous idea back to life. We're trying to build a ghost in the machine, and it's starting to look a lot like discredited pseudoscience.
That old idea is called physiognomy, the belief that you can judge someone's character just by looking at their face. It has a really long and frankly ugly history, from ancient fortune-telling all the way to being used by eugenicists to justify horrible discrimination. For years, it was thrown in the trash bin of pseudoscience where it belongs. But now, it's back, and it's been supercharged with machine learning. And the link here is just chillingly direct. What we used to call physiognomy is now getting a rebrand as AI inference. But the claim is exactly the same, that an algorithm can look at a photo of your face and figure out things like if you're a criminal, what your personality is, or even your sexual orientation.
So how do these things even work? Well, let's break down the flawed logic. Take one infamous study that claimed it could detect sexual orientation. First, the researchers just scraped thousands of photos off the internet. Then, they train an AI to find literally any pattern at all that connects the photos to a label. The AI, because it's a pattern matching machine, it finds one. But, and this is the most important part, the researchers then make this giant leap, ignoring the real reason for the pattern, and they claim they've made some profound discovery about biology.
Because, when other researchers actually dug into that study, they found the AI wasn't some kind of magic sexuality detector. Not at all. It was just picking up on cultural patterns. It found correlations with things like how people tilt their head in a selfie, their grooming choices, or whether they wear glasses. It wasn't finding biological truths. It was finding social stereotypes that were already baked right into the data.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Our little journey from the power of human intuition to the big problems with artificial judgment teaches us a really critical lesson.
This quote from the philosopher Daniel Dennett just hits the nail on the head. Technology is not neutral. Data is not neutral. The choices we make about what data to feed a machine and what patterns to tell it to look for, they are loaded with our own human assumptions and biases from the very start.
And this, right here, is the most important thing to remember. When we try to automate our deeply human and deeply flawed snap judgments, we don't get rid of the bias. We risk just encoding it into a system, washing it clean through an algorithm, and then scaling it up to a level we can barely even imagine. We're not fixing the Warren Harding error, we're just building a machine to make it faster and bigger.
Look, our ability to judge in the blink of an eye is a remarkable part of being human. It's both a superpower and a serious danger. So the final question isn't really about whether machines can judge us. The real question is, what happens when we teach those machines to inherit our own worst instincts, and then just set them loose?